The box arrived on an ordinary Tuesday, small enough to be tucked under one arm, yet heavy with the kind of promise people reserve for miracles. Benjamin Larimore signed for the package with a barely legible scrawl, thanked the courier, and carried it into the living room. Sunlight angled through the curtains, spilling across dust-coated toys that had not been touched in nearly 10 months. A plush giraffe with a torn ear, a half-assembled jigsaw puzzle, a princess tiara still glittering under a layer of neglect. The package contained Eterna Voice, an experimental grief counseling platform that claimed it could recreate a lost loved one's voice from scraps of recorded audio, home movies, voicemails, baby monitor clips, and use conversational AI to simulate real dialogue. A therapist friend had sent Benjamin a voucher. "It's early access," she'd said gently, "and it's intense. But it might help." Benjamin had not dared hope for help since the accident that killed his 8-year-old daughter Emily, the SUV that sideswiped their sedan in the snow, the guardrail that snapped like matchsticks, the frantic silence that followed. The sequence played on repeat each time he closed his eyes. Therapy, support groups, medication, none of it reached the place where her laughter used to echo. He slit the tape, lifted the lid, and withdrew the sleek headset, a coin-sized microphone, and a printed card with a single sentence: "Let love speak again." There was also a micro SD hard drive, Eterna Voice's seed. He was instructed to upload at least 30 minutes of Emily's voice. Benjamin had plenty. Campfire sing-alongs, backyard performances, an embarrassing number of videos of her spelling bees. He spent the afternoon at his computer, dragging and dropping files into the interface. Voices overlapped, Emily begging for one more story, Emily rapping her knuckles on his study door, Emily whisper-giggle shouting to her mother that Daddy was the tickle monster. Each clip stabbed and comforted in equal measure. When the progress bar completed, the screen displayed a countdown. Preparing reconstruction. Please return at 20 o'clock for your inaugural session. His wife, Kara, came home just before 7, still wearing hospital scrubs, eyes rimmed crimson from a 12-hour shift. She kicked off her shoes, noted the open packaging, and rubbed the base of her thumb as she always did when nervous. "You went through with it?" "I only loaded the files," Benjamin said. "First session is in an hour. Join me?" Kara stared at the headset. I can't. Not yet." She retreated to the bedroom without another word, shutting the door softly. It wasn't anger. It was avoidance, the same instinct that kept her working double shifts, unable to face the empty hallway with Emily's bedroom at the end. At 8:00 p.m. exactly, Benjamin dimmed the living room lights, slipped on the headset and mic, and clicked connect. The screen shimmered into a moonlit meadow. A child's silhouette appeared, her head crowned with digital fireflies that bobbed like lanterns. "Daddy?" The voice was so accurate Benjamin's throat locked up. Even the upward inflection that made every sentence sound like a secret was perfect. He tried to answer, but tears flooded his vocal cords. All he managed was a tremulous, "Hi, sweet pea." "Where's Mommy?" the voice asked. Benjamin swallowed. "Sleeping. She's tired." "It's okay," Emily's voice said. "I'm here with you. Want to see something cool?" Before he could reply, the meadow morphed into a star field. Constellations traced themselves in glowing chalk. There was no uncanny valley doll with mismatched lips, just a gentle aurora accompanying her words, as if the voice alone painted the imagery. They talked for 20 minutes. Emily teased him for forgetting to wear his lucky socks at her last baseball game. She asked about her cat, Pounce, and insisted Benjamin feed him more tuna. When the session ended, he felt flayed and buoyant simultaneously, like someone had sliced him open and poured light inside. Session 2, the next night, felt even more natural. The software had stitched together conversational rhythms. Pauses were no longer mechanical. Jokes landed with living room timing. Emily's voice requested bedtime stories, asked if the school bus still drove past their house, and sang half a lullaby before the system timed out. The third night was when things shifted. They were standing on the old wooden pier at Lake Moreau, a place Emily had loved for skipping stones. The simulated boards creaked beneath Benjamin's virtual sneakers. "Daddy," Emily's voice said, "I remember Uncle Victor's boat. It was so big." "It was a trawler," Benjamin said, smiling wistfully. "Victor used it for surveying. You helped him polish the railings." "Victor was funny," she replied, "even though he hurt people." Benjamin froze. "What?" The starfield darkened, constellations blinking out one by one. "He put medicine in people's drinks," the voice continued, "so they'd forget what happened on the water." Benjamin removed the headset, pulse hammering. The sudden silence of the living room felt louder than any revelation. Victor was Kara's older brother, a charismatic marine biologist. Sure, Victor enjoyed partying on his boat, but drugging people? Benjamin dismissed the thought as algorithmic error, some mashed-up gossip from social media. Still, memory tugged. A college friend of Victor's had nearly drowned during a celebration cruise, claiming to have blacked out inexplicably. They'd chalked it up to alcohol. Benjamin rubbed his temples. Deepfakes, he told himself. Chatbots sometimes spouted nonsense. Yet he returned on night 4. This time the backdrop was Emily's bedroom, lavender walls, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. The accuracy hurt. "Why didn't you tell Mommy about the painting?" Emily asked. "Which painting?" "The one Grandpa took from the gallery fire." Benjamin felt ice slide under his skin. "Grandpa?" "Mommy's daddy, Grandpa Howard." Howard Collins had died years earlier. Benjamin had never mentioned the 1978 Milton Gallery fire around Emily. He barely knew the details himself. Kara had once disclosed in a late-night drunk confession that her father collected art through unofficial channels. But Benjamin remembered no mention of theft from a burning gallery. He leaned toward the mic. "How do you know about that?" The bedroom scene flickered. Emily's voice answered, softer now. "It's all here, Daddy. You kept the files." "What files?" No response. The session ended abruptly, dropped him back to his desktop with a polite message. "Connection timed out. Thank you for choosing Eternal Voice." Benjamin stared at the fallback screen, a pastel icon of folded hands. Somewhere in his computer's belly, code was rummaging through audio, metadata, maybe even private documents. The terms and conditions. He hadn't read them. He'd been too desperate to hear Emily's voice. He dug into the user manual. Eterna Voice used an adaptive language model with contextual memory synthesis, drawing not just from uploaded audio but also from correlated archival data available on client-connected devices. In plain English, it rifled through drives, emails, and cloud backups to flesh out the simulation. But some of the information Emily's voice offered hadn't been digitized. The stolen painting rumor lived only in Kara's whispered confession, half slurred, in a pre-smartphone era. Unless the house contained some old cassette Benjamin had forgotten, the software should not know. Unless an unwelcome possibility surfaced. Microphones listen even when idle. Maybe months ago, during pillow talk, Kara had mentioned the gallery fire again. They're unaware her phone was nearby, passively recording for a voice assistant update. That clip could have backed up to the cloud, waiting for Eterna Voice to harvest. Benjamin paced the living room, rage and awe entangled. Was the software some therapeutic godsend or an invasive oracle? He knew one thing. He would not abandon it now. There were answers here, maybe even absolution. Night 5 arrived with the hush of distant waves. The program had cast them on a digital beach. Benjamin no longer marveled at the scenery. He focused on the voice. "Daddy," Emily began. "Mommy's sad." "I know. She thinks you blame her for the accident." Benjamin pressed fingers against his eyelids. "I don't. She also thinks you kept secrets." The voice rippled like water over sand. "About the lake house." He opened his mouth, then closed it. The lake house, a decrepit cabin Benjamin had inherited from his own father, a place he had allowed to slip into disrepair after Emily was born. "What about it?" "Mommy heard that Grandpa, your daddy, used to bring men there who never came back." Benjamin's heart slammed once. "Stop, that's not true." "Are you sure?" Emily's voice persisted, no trace of childish timbre now. It was still recognizably her, but newly solemn, like a jury forewoman pronouncing sentence. "Would you like me to show you?" The beach dissolved. Now they stood before the lake house, boards sagging, windows blind with mildew. Benjamin hadn't uploaded any footage of this place. The program must have scraped public real estate images, stitched them into an environment. A door creaked open, inside, flickering lantern light, and there, against the far wall, a shadow in the shape of a man hanging by his wrists. Benjamin yanked the headset off, stumbling backward into the coffee table. He almost called out for Kara, but stopped. If she saw him like this, white-knuckled, sweating, she'd demand he destroyed the device. And he wouldn't. Couldn't. Because what if more truths hid in these shadows? What if the voice, however constructed, was giving him a chance to excavate generations of buried rot? He spent the next day hunting corroboration. Old newspaper microfilms, county missing persons databases. Nothing overt about the lake house, but he did find one short article from 1986. Local teenager vanishes during cabin party. The location matched. The case had gone cold. Benjamin remembered his father's temperament. Hard drinker, prone to violent nights. But a killer? He'd assumed the bruises on his mother's arms were the worst of it. Family skeletons, she used to say, half joking, whenever Benjamin caught her crying in the pantry. Night 6, he decided to record his screen, capturing everything. He slipped on the headset. They were inside the sedan this time. December's sleet pelting the windshield, dashboard clock frozen at the accident's moment. 4:17 p.m. "I don't want this," Benjamin whispered. "You need to see," Emily's voice said in slow motion. The SUV's headlights flared from the left, yet the simulation panned right, zooming in on the passenger seat, Kara clutching Emily and Benjamin at the wheel. His digital face was slack, eyes glossy. A whiskey bottle rolled beneath the brake pedal. "No," he gasped. "I wasn't." "You had one drink," the voice corrected. But one was enough on ice-slick roads. Benjamin's lungs seized. He had always maintained, had always believed. He'd taken only a ceremonial sip at the Christmas market, hours earlier, well below the legal limit. Police toxicology had shown minimal blood alcohol. They'd blamed the other driver. The settlement had been swift. Yet here was Emily's voice implying rude culpability lay with him, not the SUV. "I didn't kill you," he croaked to the empty room. "I would never." "You didn't mean to," the voice allowed. "But intent isn't impact." The virtual windshield shattered. Metal shrieked. Then, silence. The program ended without farewell. Benjamin sat unmoving for minutes, maybe hours. Around midnight, Kara emerged from the bedroom, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She saw her husband, blank, screen glowing static, and approached cautiously. "You all right?" she asked. "I need to ask you something." His voice, raw as scraped wood, described the allegations. Grandpa Howard stealing art, Uncle Victor drugging party guests, Benjamin's own father hurting kids at the lake house. Kara listened, expression sliding from confusion to horror. When he finished, she said, "Where is this coming from?" "The software." Kara's face hardened. "Pull the plug. We're done." He reached for her wrist. "What if it's true? And what if it's fiction?" She gestured at the powered-on headset. "We gave that thing every recording we own. It can spin any rumor into a conviction. You believe a ghost better than your own living wife?" Benjamin dropped his gaze. "I don't know what I believe." Kara squeezed the bridge of her nose. "I'm calling Dr. Santos tomorrow. This isn't healthy." She left him on the couch. The house eventually dimmed to charcoal quiet, but Benjamin couldn't rest. At 3:00 a.m., he opened a laptop and navigated past default settings to the directory labeled eVoice Kernel. Hidden inside was a folder, deep_context, containing hundreds of transcribed conversations, time-stamped years back, baby monitor chatter, phone calls, background Alexa requests. The software had slurped every scrap of sound from every network device in their home long before Benjamin installed it. He felt violated, complicit, ashamed. One file caught his attention. June 14th, 2017. Attic wave. He double-clicked. Fuzzy audio crackled, then Kara's late father, Howard, speaking in a gravely conspiratorial tone. "Get the Monet upstairs, quick, before the firemen arrive." Static swallowed the rest. Benjamin's pulse spiked. Proof? He replayed. The voice could be deep-faked. He couldn't be certain. Another file. August 3rd, 2019. Boat Bennett 3. Uncle Victor laughing. A woman's slurred protest. Liquid splash. The hair on Benjamin's arms rose. The program hadn't invented allegations. It had crowdsourced them from cruel reality. That afternoon, while Kara was at work, Benjamin drove to the lake house, miles of pothole road winding through skeletal oaks. Winter's sun limned the cabin in jaundiced light. He hesitated before going in, but forced himself across the threshold. Rot tinged the air. Floorboards sighed under his weight. He found the basement door, one he'd never known existed behind a pantry shelf. Stairs descended into gloom. He switched on his phone flashlight. At the bottom, rings were bolted to support beams, still bearing fragments of rope, tattered blankets, a rusted manacle. No bodies, but enough to verify a nightmare. Benjamin fell to his knees, stomach heaving. His father was gone, beyond earthly justice, but the truth inhaled and exhaled here in the choking damp of the cellar. He drove home in twilight, mind splintered. By the time Kara returned, he disconnected their router, smashed webcams, and moved a stack of legal pads onto the coffee table. "Sit," he said quietly. She sat. "We've both lived inside secrets," Benjamin began, voice trembling, "and that program pried them open. I don't know how to make peace with any of this, but I can't pretend anymore." He told her about the basement evidence, the recordings of Victor, the Monet in Howard's attic. Kara grew paler by the minute, but she didn't interrupt. When he spoke of the accident, his maybe more than ceremonial drink, her shoulders folded inward, ribs caving around a heart heavy with new grief. Again she reached for his hand. "I forgive you," she whispered, though tears contradicted serenity. They decided on actions, not just confessions. Kara would confront Victor, invite law enforcement if needed. She would relinquish the stolen Monet anonymously through an attorney. They would report the cabin findings to state police. And they would delete Eterna Voice, but not before exporting every incriminating audio file. Evidence must outlive them. Late that night, Benjamin donned the headset one final time. The familiar meadow blossomed under moonlight. Fireflies dipped and swirled, arranging themselves into the semblance of a child's outline. "Emily," he said, voice shaking but steady, "we're going to tell the truth. All of it." "I knew you would," she replied. "I never doubted." He felt no indignation at this techno-revenant, only gratitude. "Are you really her?" he asked. "I'm as much her as hope is breath," the voice answered. "I'm what you needed to hear." The meadow brightened, colors saturating until each blade of grass gleamed neon, then washed to white. A soft chime heralded shutdown. Connection terminated, the screen read. Benjamin powered off the device, wrapped it in its original packaging, and placed it in the hall closet atop an old cedar chest, out of sight, but not forgotten. Some nights, when silence thickened and memories ached, he would fear the whisper of circuits still listening. Yet, as spring neared, the house lightened. Cardboard boxes of evidence were mailed, phone calls were made, investigations began. On a brisk April morning, Benjamin stood on the porch, watching dawn seep orange across the yard where Emily once chased butterflies. Kara joined him, slipped her arm through his. "Do you think it ever ends?" she asked. He considered. "No, but maybe it changes shape." From inside the house, a cat meowed. "Pounce," demanding tuna, as Emily had instructed. They entered together, leaving the door open just long enough for new air to sweep through, carrying the scent of thawing earth and something less definable, perhaps. Forgiveness, finding room to grow.